Where's your pistol at on you?
On my side.
Okay. Just put your hands on the top of the vehicle for me.
I appreciate that being very
Oh,
honest.
you're all right. Oh. You okay?
Yeah, you kind of understand why I always hesitate where if people ask me, should I tell cops I'm carrying if I'm pulled over for a traffic stop? And in some states you're forced to, but most states you're not. And I always say, Now to be clear, this is an extreme scenario. But what if you did this to a friend? You're helping them, whatever, they've got a back cramp, I don't know. But you're helping to disarm them because they need to sit down and you shoot them in the leg. Do you think you're going to get arrested and go to prison? I think there's a pretty dang good chance of that. We're going to be talking through a lot of these concepts coming right up. So guys, let's get into it. All right, so first, really quickly, what happened? So allegedly, the driver, a gentleman, blew a red light or ran a red light somehow, and he's fully cooperative. He informs police that, hey, I'm armed. He follows their instructions. He steps out of the car. He's not making any furtive movements, any of that kind of stuff. And the officers acknowledge this as well. One of the officers goes to disarm him. They're taking the firearm out of the holster, and somehow this ends when the citizen catches a round to his leg, which is absolutely inexcusable. Period. Full stop. I don't know what the track record of this officer who was disarming him, and it ended with him catching one of the leg and going down. I don't know if she's the world's best officer, and this just comes out as a bolt out of the blue. I don't know if she's had a million different write-ups, and this is yet another thing, hopefully the worst thing. I don't know if, in her defense, plain benefit of the doubt here, I don't know if she had really crappy training when it comes to how do I safely disarm someone who is carrying. I don't know if she has experienced all these sorts of things or not. So what I'm saying is I don't know if she failed the training because she was trained on it. She just didn't pay attention or did not do a good job retaining it. Or if the training failed her because the training was not up to snuff. But one way or another, it is obviously inexcusable to have an officer who reasonably and foreseeably is going to have to be disarming folks as the course of their ordinary duties. It's probably not an everyday thing, but it's got to be this is reasonable and foreseeable, could happen. And if we get it wrong, really bad things are going to happen. So maybe we should train our officers and make sure that they get this really important thing right. Because if something super bad is going to happen, even if this is only something you do a handful of times a year, if the outcome is staggeringly bad, then you have, I'm going to break out the legal word, don't glaze over on me, you have a duty to make sure that that reasonably foreseeable task can be performed safely, competently. American Hartford Gold is dedicated to helping individuals and families invest in precious metals. This includes gold, silver, and platinum in both bars and coin. They provide both physical delivery to one's doorstep or inside of a retirement account like an IRA, 401k, or TSP. American Hartford Gold helps clients achieve greater security for their future by adding safe haven assets to their portfolio. Investors receive only the highest quality gold and silver coins offered at competitive prices with 100% customer satisfaction guaranteed. Their leadership is truly committed to providing quality service and fair pricing. Through their expertise in the industry, they provide the latest market information with a historical perspective to empower both experienced and new investors alike. American Hartford Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and has a 5-star customer satisfaction rating on multiple review platforms like Trustpilot and Google. I'm extremely honored that they would trust us to recommend them to beloved friends, family, and of course, you dear viewers. Their goal is to achieve 100% customer satisfaction. They offer all their clients their buyback commitment, in which they encourage their clients to contact them first if they wish to sell their metals. If you call American Hartford Gold today and tell them that I sent you, they'll give you up to $15,000 of free silver on your first order. So call them now. Click the link in the description or call 866-968-8779. That's 866-968-8779. Or text Grieve, wonder where they got that. That's GRIEV to 65532. Again, that's 866-968-8779. Or text Grieve to 65532. So again, I don't know. If the training sucked, then this was unquestionably one of the worst days of her life anyways. I've got no doubt about that. But if the training sucked, then she's, in a sense, every bit as much a victim as this gentleman. And let's be clear, he is victim one and out of this whole thing, because aside from maybe running a red light or whatever it is that he allegedly did in order to get pulled over, he is blameless in this whole transaction. I want to focus on something else. What happens if you did this to your friend or something like that? What's going to happen? Can you imagine the arrest? Can you imagine the recklessly endangering safety charge? Because here in my home state of Wisconsin, you're going to get hit with probably a Class D, as in dog, as in legal death. Up to 25 years of prison is what you're going to be looking at if you accidentally do exactly what this officer did, with the only distinction being she's wearing a badge and a uniform, you're not. Even if you were trying to do something to help your friend out, like I mentioned before, if they're hurting, if they slipped, if they fell, if they ask you, hey, please take this out, they're not signing up for you to shoot them in the leg. And if you don't know how to take it out, by the way, if you don't know how to safely disarm someone, the proper answer is no. Let me get someone who can if you cannot do it yourself. But that gets us back to why this is so infuriating, because if the officer didn't know how to do this, ask someone else who can. Ask someone else who can. Playing with loaded firearms that start off as being, if not directly pointed at someone, then close enough to point at someone. This is not what I like to call something that's ripe for on-the-job training. This is not one of those circumstances that you want to be just learning as you go. You're going to practice on people. There's a reason why surgeons have to go through all sorts of exams, training, testing, you name it, before they start crawl, walk, running on actually operating real patients. If you're dealing with loaded firearms pointed at someone, which if you think about it, you disarm a firearm, you're pulling it out and away from them, there's a way you can do that so it never points at them, which, by the way, is, 4 rules of firearm safety, right? Treat every firearm like it's loaded. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Always keep it pointed in a safe direction. Be aware of your target and what is beyond. Whatever you know about those, hopefully you've got those 4 in some configuration. She violated the very basic rules of firearm safety. She probably pressed on the trigger. She probably pulled the trigger. Guns these days just don't go off, at least not modern concealed carry handguns. I don't know what type of handgun this is. Maybe, well, okay, there's one brand that's caught a lot of heat over the years recently, but I'm going to leave them to the side because it looks like it may have been solved. And that doesn't look like that's the situation we have here. Too many coincidences for all this to happen exactly in the moment that she's withdrawing the firearm. She should have kept her finger off the trigger, and even if her finger was off the trigger, it obviously snagged on the edge of the holster or a shirt or something, but that's why you always keep it pointed in a safe direction. She likely had to violate, for this outcome, multiple basic rules of firearm safety that I taught this to my 5-year-olds when I was teaching them how to shoot 22s and 410s up in northern Wisconsin. They could not touch a firearm, which, believe me, they were closely supervised with me, literally hovering over them. But just the same, in between reloading, before they could touch a firearm, repetitively throughout the whole morning, they had these drilled in. Why can my 5-year-olds know this, but a trained police officer cannot? Which brings me to this point. We have a profound misunderstanding in the United States that every cop is some sort of expert when it comes to firearms. That simply is not true. It isn't. Now, rest assured, if they have a SWAT rocker, if they are on the SWAT team, Special Weapons and Tactics, for those of you new around here, yeah, they're probably like a gun nerd, a gun junkie, and they probably joined SWAT in no small part because they wanted to shoot a ton and free ammo sounds great, okay? Most officers are not on SWAT. Most officers that I have had experience with as an ex-state prosecutor criminal defense attorney, They qualified with their firearm, they shoot it a handful of times a year, maybe they take it 1 or 2 steps beyond that. But if you compare that to individuals who are at high levels of competition, consummate Second Amendment advocates, people who are extraordinarily serious hunters, things like that, that's going to a whole different level. Now, many of those people are cops or they're in law enforcement. Don't get me wrong, but my point is this. The average cop on the street, probably not the best shot in the world. Evidently, they may not know all 4 rules of firearm safety. And predictably, there can be problems as a result. We have a prejudice in our society that, hey, bad things happen. We need someone wearing a badge because they're the experts with firearms. This is yet another example to illustrate the fact that, no, expertise can come and go regardless of the uniform you have on or whether or not you've got a badge in your pocket or on your chest. You don't need that to be an expert. You don't need that to be safe. Although I hope everybody who has it is. There are around about 500 negligent discharge deaths in our country and thousands more of people who are treated and released from hospitals. These are, almost without exception, 100% preventable. I say almost without exception because there are super freak scenarios where things can happen. Maybe there's a product liability issue where the firearm actually does go off by itself, which, by the way, that's always what people say. That's almost never what happens. Almost never what happens. It's rarely an equipment problem. It's a software problem. That makes it preventable. If you're too tired, if you're impaired, if you're too injured, whatever it is, do not be handling loaded firearms. Period. Bad things can and will happen. And if you lack the training or the attention to detail to disarm someone with a loaded firearm, ask your partner for help. Let's close out with our ever popular quote of the day. Don't forget to hit that like button if you've not already done so. This one comes from noted American author and thinker and wordsmith Mark Twain, who once said, "Good decisions come from experience. Experience comes from making bad decisions." Just pro tip, those bad decisions, they don't need to be yours. You can learn from other people. I appreciate you sticking around this long. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check out some of our other great content, and we'll see you in the next one.